Well, absolute cinema. The press is very bad. I'm here at this press conference because the press wants to take away what belongs to the members, which is Real Madrid. There's a part of the press that I don't like. I have an issue with a writer from ABC. I tell him something, and also to a woman who writes for ABC. But hey, there's some good press. There's some press where I feel comfortable and where I can go and all that. So what? Which press is that? Well, Kim Dominic, the one from The Zone, and of course, Josep Pedrerol, of course. It turns out the good press is the one that has made Vinicius's life impossible since he arrived in Spain. The one that allowed Vinicius to be insulted in a racist and xenophobic way in a studio. The good press is from a guy who is also a Barca fan, because he said, no, there are some who are Atletico fans. Well, and this one is a Barca fan, and the good press is good because, of course, Ferreras is there, right? But I insist. The good press for Florentino is the one where he feels comfortable, the one where he made the biggest blunder of his presidency before yesterday's press conference. Was presenting the Super League there on El Chiringuito. And years have gone by and he still hasn't realized it. That's where he feels comfortable. That's the one he's going to give the exclusive interview to tonight, to Josep Pedrerol, man. It's amazing. But hey, if Florentino convinces you, fantastic, fantastic. Now we see something about Florentino that's incredible from yesterday's press conference. And I'm sorry, guys, I'm not going to back down from this. I'm not going to back down from this. I've defended Florentino as much as I could. I still think he's the best president in the history of Real Madrid. And maybe in Spanish sports, certainly in Spanish football, certainly maybe in world football, and even in world sports. He's done incredible things. We're very grateful to him, but there are things that just can't be defended. And what happened today, I mean, well, we have another show again at 9 p.m., right? Florentino with Pedrerol. Let's see if he finally announces when the elections will be. So we know the timing. We want Madrid to succeed in sports, but if everything is on hold, tell me how that's supposed to work. If no one steps up in 15 days, then this just keeps going. Hey, Florentino, sign Mourinho. Now let's look at the latest information on that topic. Who has reported better on the Mourinho issue than Sergio Valentin? And well, if not, an electoral process opens up in which apparently this Riquelme guy would run. Let's see who he is. I mean, I don't know Riquelme. Yeah, his name sounded familiar to me because back in 21, he kind of hinted at running and all that. People had talked about him before, but not much more than that. But now we're starting to learn things. And there are already people around Riquelme that I don't like. Honestly, I don't like them, or more than not liking them, I'm just not enthusiastic about them. I know Madrid fans aren't excited about it and may not like it, so I'm not sure if that's the best way to present yourself. But anyway, since I want Madrid to do well, and since yesterday I saw a president who communicatively and personally, I just don't see it. AM, I don't like how he represents the club. Let's see what he does tonight with Pedrerol. Well, what do you want me to say? I want the best for Madrid and for someone to step up, or for someone to be president who is really prepared, but he hasn't made it easy for anyone to get in there. He really hasn't made it easy. But anyway, what I really want to start with is that it's unbelievable. The thing with the press. Now, this is the good press. It's amazing. It's just amazing. Well, look, most Madrid fans, I understand that most of us think it's the opposite, that we might think there's a lot of press. Man, the ones subsidized by Tebas, Marca, AES, all of those. But of course, what they've been telling me in the last few hours, what do you owe López Obrador? Me? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. I defend freedom of speech. And that people can talk about Real Madrid as long as it's done professionally and without lying. Florentino denied this yesterday. Criticizing the press for making things up is different from saying, why don't you speak well about Madrid? Hey, well, because the press isn't obligated to speak well about Madrid or Barca or Atleti or anyone, absolutely anyone. The press is, among other things, there to hold those in power accountable and to scrutinize everything. Because if not, we'd be living in a dictatorship, damn it. And that's not what we want. And because I think it's terrible that this is being questioned, that but come on, now they're trying to sell me that this is okay, but not when others do it. By the way, I was saying, and now let's move on with this Riquelme guy. Yesterday, Florentino was saying, without naming him, he said the one with the South American or Mexican accent, Then he said, and of course, Florentino saw this coming a while ago and said, this guy is using media outlets to make a name for himself. Well, excuse me, but what did Florentino Perez do back in the day? Florentino Perez admitted that in the first elections where he ran against Mendoza, I think it was in 94 or 96, no, 96 and 96, Lorenzo Sanz was already there. I think it was in 95, right? Those elections in which he ran against Mendoza, Florentino later admitted that he lacked marketing. He missed a master move for sure. He needed to make himself known, have more friends in the media, because in the end, look, if you don't do that, you're just being foolish. I'm not justifying this, but with that Riquelme guy, I don't know which media he's convinced. Yeah, I'm sharing this now from El Confidencial, and someone might say, well, yeah, he has people at El Confidencial. I don't know. I don't know if the people from Marca are supporting him. I have no information about that. But this man wouldn't be making anything up. Florentino already did that back in the day. When yesterday he talked a lot about Jose Maria Garcia, he had to choose between Jose Maria Garcia and Jose Damon de la Morena, who were the two trains colliding at that time, right? By the way, just to add, Florentino Perez talking to me about Segurola and Alfredo Relaño as if they still mattered right now, as if they were the two great opinion leaders. It's incredible. It's incredible. I think it's treating people like they're stupid. Besides, a lot of young people say, but who are Segurola and Alfredo Relaño? With all due respect, but who are they? Florentino, in that sense, look, he's a guy who's so ahead of his time, because it's true that he's been ahead of his time many times, and he's benefited from that. Real Madrid as a club is old-fashioned in other ways too, like that. A few years ago, someone from Real Madrid told me, just a few years ago, Florentino was stuck in the past. Even after Real Madrid slightly updated their content and social media, Florentino Perez was still living in the past. In the world of DVDs, man, and that at the heart of the 11th, 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th, that it had to be delivered on DVD, like collectibles, instead of understanding that this world has already changed. But anyway, apparently this man, who is a very young man but very powerful, is the CEO of Cox, of this company, which, by the way, he's from there, from Alicante. I don't know if there's a town called Cox there. I think so. I thought I read it before. If I'm wrong, forgive me, but he definitely doesn't have a Mexican accent. What happens is that if you've lived in Mexico for a while, and my wife is Mexican, for example, you pick up more than the accent, you pick up words. Although, well, Marc Rosas picked up the whole accent, but he did it strategically, Marc Rosas. It was so he could be accepted there and start working in the media there. And since I've worked in the United States, they asked me to use a neutral Mexican accent without exaggeration. But no one can take away my Spanish accent, because otherwise I would be speaking like an actor. And I want to speak as a journalist, but, well, there are words that just stick with you. I don't know if that's why. Maybe he was referring to the Mexican accent thing, or maybe he said it just to say, look, this guy is from outside, when we're seeing that Madrid is universal. Anyway, well, so El Confidencial says Riquelme sees Florentino's challenge and finalizes the backing of the big banks to preside over Real Madrid. That's what they're saying. The president of Cox is preparing his candidacy, supported by legendary players of the club and by several top-tier global banks. Is anyone here thinking about that? Look, banks are going to get involved with Real Madrid and all that. Let's see. But is there another way to get into Real Madrid? The president of Real Madrid, and he has been and still is Florentino. And if it's this man or someone else who runs, he has to be a very powerful guy with a lot of influence and with a lot of support from very powerful people. That's how it is. Pablo Iglesias won't become president of Real Madrid, but someone else powerful might. By the way, but anyway, you get what I mean. Not just anyone can become president of Real Madrid. That's just how it has to be. Someone is probably writing to me right now saying, you're already campaigning, that's why, right? No, if there was someone else, I'd talk about that other person. And if there was another, I'd talk about that one too. And what's more, I hope a lot of people run precisely for that reason, also because I think Florentino will be elected no matter who runs. But, so they put a little pressure on him so Florentino can see it too. And that's how it should be in any healthy democracy. You have to step up. If not, just imagine, let's take it to politics. Now here, a politician does a really good job. Hey, one party is the one in control and all that. Nobody else runs. So it's a single party system. For me, that leads to authoritarianism and to dictatorship. And that's very dangerous. That's very dangerous. But anyway, they say this about this man. Who are his supporters? Who are the people around this man? Apparently, they're saying it's one thing for photos to appear with them. It's another thing for them to actually be part of his candidacy and all that. But here they're talking about former players, and here we see Fernando Sanz, Mijatovic, etc. They're saying that, well, I'm going to read this information from Marca. It says Enrique Riquelme, president of Grupo Cox, is considering Riquelme is the main shareholder of Grupo Cox, a very strong company in the renewable energy sector, which operates in more than 30 countries. In recent weeks, the possible candidate for the Real Madrid presidency has made numerous headlines in the economic press around the world. For two financial operations, the acquisition of Iberdrola Mexico for about $4 billion and the record bond issuance in the United States worth $2 billion. Well, he is on the list of the world's most influential people in the fight against climate change. Look, some people might say he's with this guy, but for me, all that about renewables and climate change, I think it's important. I'm not denying the problem, of course. There definitely is one, but it's all the ideology, everything that's been built around it. You know how I think? To me, it seems like a huge scam for fools. I mean, for them to tell you that you have to go with paper bags instead of plastic ones, because that way you're helping keep us from destroying the planet. Meanwhile, the Chinese do whatever they want. And you're a resident of Europe who has zero impact on that, and they've brainwashed you with that. Watch out. I'm not denying the problem that might exist in terms of global warming and all that. What I deny is that I always rebel against the fact that the average European has to do things that in other parts of the world they don't ask their people to do, and that we who are compared to Asia and all that very, very small are being sold this idea. The fact that yes, we do it, we have to do it to change the world. The others don't. All those people who have jumped on that bandwagon, I already suspect them a little, to be honest, but hey, if they saw a business opportunity and it worked out great for them, well, good for them. Of course, there are smart people. Well, Florentino Perez referred to him with that Mexican accent, Well, anyway, this guy is there. They say that he could also be behind it. Oh, well, Florentino Perez, to relate it to the Iberdrola thing, could the president of Iberdrola be behind this? And Florentino Perez, apparently, I found out about all this just yesterday. He is a sworn enemy of the Iberdrola guy, and that the Iberdrola guy would be behind this and sponsoring this man. No idea. The one who knows best about that is Florentino. You know that in high circles, people, when we find out about things, they've already known for years. And that there's a league there that regular citizens can't play in, and we only find out afterwards. Well, okay, so anyway, like I said before here, the president of Real Madrid must be someone from the elite and very powerful, as anything else is impossible. They say he would be surrounded by people like them. I don't know. Look, this is just a picture. I insist. Whether it's Miguel Torres, whether it's Sergio Ramos. Sergio Ramos is planning to buy Sevilla, and Iker Casillas might be involved, though I'm not sure if Ramos will run the club. Of course, there are people who hear these names and it really puts them off, right? I don't think there is. I think instead of helping him, I think it's the opposite for Riquelme, but well, he'll know who he's surrounding himself with. Honestly, I don't care. If this guy does end up running, if he can do it. I'm not convinced. Well, no, I'm not convinced. Florentino Perez, from what I saw in yesterday's press conference, I'm not convinced either. Do I see him ready for another 4 years as president? I see that he's a man who doesn't take advice. And in terms of communication and image and all that, he no longer represents Real Madrid in the best way. It's like if I have to cast a blank vote, sorry, if they even hold a vote, and I hope so, because this will be more democratic than having no elections, right? If I'm not convinced, I won't praise someone just because they're against the other, and vice versa. I see things. Everything I see, I don't like. What I'm seeing, I don't like. But of course, there's some information here about Mourinho. By the way, it's from Sergio Valentin. Well, the matter has been put on hold, according to what Sergio Valentin says. The process to hire Mourinho has been put on hold. It's not being cancelled, nor are they looking for another coach. It's simply being postponed until the electoral process that started yesterday is over. Florentino Perez, yesterday I told you that I had received some bad news for Mourinho's fans. And now I can give you more details based on my information, he says. The plan to hire Jose Mourinho is now on hold. Jose Angel Sanchez called Jorge Mendes to explain that Mourinho's signing had to be postponed because elections had been called. He says if elections aren't held in 15 days, this will restart and Mourinho will be signed. Otherwise, it'll happen in 30 or 40 days. Of course, that's one of those things, one of the collateral effects of this whim to call elections. Just because, let's see who's got the bigger one. And I'm Florentino Perez, so I get ahead. Since the press is against me, let's see if this guy convincing the press runs against me. Because of that whim, sorry, but because of that whim, everything is going to come to a halt. On a sports level, 30 days to start signing players that you should already have lined up. Or even the first coach himself, of course. Honestly, I think that's a disservice to Real Madrid. That's why I said yesterday before the press conference, I hope he doesn't resign because I want stability at Madrid, even if I don't like what he's doing. Florentino. Well, look, another collateral consequence. Anyway, and I don't want to leave this unsaid about what happened yesterday with Florentino. There were a lot of things, and we could do fact-checking on a bunch of stories, he said. A lot of truths, including the Negreira case. Of course, in that, as I said in the previous video and in this morning's live stream on that, we're 100% with him and with Madrid, especially Madrid. But it's more than obvious. They asked him, let's see, are you fully against Barcelona? Because of the Negreira case, because we heard you say in an assembly that Barca and Real Madrid had to help each other. And about Florentino, oh no, but that was much earlier. The Negreira thing is recent, right? Well, no. And that's a reason for a Real Madrid member, since I'm a member and a fan, to be upset. Because they've been deceived, because Florentino Perez was misleading people here with what for me is the main issue right now, since Florentino Perez spoke yesterday, and it's about why Madrid didn't act earlier against Barcelona in the Negreira case, and now we know why, because we were in bed with Laporta. Because of the Super League, from that moment on, out of pure interest, right? Personal business interest for Madrid as well, because Florentino believed that the Super League was going to be very good for Real Madrid. Financially, that's why Madrid and Barca were both still there, right? But of course, Madrid fans don't like that. I mean, we're not seeking Barca's punishment, which is what they should get, both administratively and criminally, because it turns out we're in this business. With them, people didn't understand it, but well, you know, the Florentino supporter with tunnel vision and blinders and all that. Well, it seems like he's forgiven. Well, sorry, but yesterday you asked him about that, and he says no. But that assembly was much earlier, and that assembly, the Negreira thing, was already in February 2023. This assembly where Florentino said this.
Barca and Madrid have to help each other, I'm telling you with complete sincerity.
It was in November of 24. Therefore, Florentino is lying here. Florentino is lying here. Yes. Hey, if you think it's okay for Florentino to lie, congratulations. But honestly, it pisses me off. Especially now, since we're coming with full force. Come on, he's had 3 years to say what he said yesterday in the press conference. No, he never said it. Quite the opposite. He said that Barca and Real Madrid had to help each other. That is, Barca had to be helped. By the way, yesterday news came out about a report, which isn't ours. It's not the one by Juan Luis Martín de Pozuelo and Ricardo Ramos, Tomás Rubio and company. It's another one, anonymous, a report or a dossier they call Pelicano 1 in January, from December of last year, January of this year. And now the dossier, Pelicano 2.0, would have been delivered to FIFA and UEFA. For me, everything adds up, of course, because UEFA will be watching closely now. Since they didn't know about this in theory, they lacked much information. I can tell you how ours is going. From what Juan Luis says, they've already received all the information. They're even already responding. Mainly UEFA, more than FIFA for now, asking for more to be sent to them, and they're interested. And has there already been contact between the people behind this complaint, the one we know about, the one that's not anonymous, the one I'm telling you about, from Juan Luis Martín de Pozuelo, Tomás Rubio, Ricardo and company? We're there cooperating with whatever is asked of us, and it seems like there's good rapport. Let's see what happens. And then there's the one from Madrid. That would be the third one. The one from Madrid is going to have more impact for sure, but I hope they present it well, and I hope they communicate it well. But anyway, let's see. They should focus on the heart of the matter, which is the expenses, the documented payments, the civil guard's report, the judge's rulings, saying that this is systemic corruption. And let's not get into videos of plays because, sorry, but that's absurd. In any case, the refereeing balance over all those years is remarkable. Do you see that? With what I was saying, with what the civil guard reports about what was said during that period, with former referees interviewed, the civil guard took statements from the referees, and they said that you were a big shot there if you refereed the way the person who promoted or demoted you wanted and who set your salary, and that if you coached his son, things went better for you. All of that, I hope, is the basis of Real Madrid's dossier, not specific plays. Sorry, but anyway. And Juste spoke. The current president of Barca is not Laporta yet, and he said this in response to Real Madrid. By the way, one thing I forgot to put up earlier about this guy's posts, Riquelme. There are people, because there's another one. There's Figo, Luis Figo. Apparently, Luis Figo would be there. What twist fate takes, right? Florentino Perez became Real Madrid president thanks to Luis Figo. Otherwise, he wouldn't have won. And now Luis Figo is liking and applauding Enrique Riquelme's posts and such. On other topics, maybe when they bought Iberdrola Mexico or something like that, I'm not sure. Miguel Torres, we had already seen him before. There's a politician from the PP here too. I think he's also here. Anyway, but Luis Figo as well. Well, I had forgotten to put it up. This is, as I said, Juste talking about the Florentino thing.
How can he claim they've taken 7 leagues from us with the Negreira case right there?
Well, that's why I say it's a total lie, because that's not how it is. That's not how it is, objectively speaking. So, well, he knows we're going to defend ourselves. 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 That's up to him. We're going to defend ourselves. We owe it to the fans. And above both of us, there's the club. And nobody touches the club. I'm telling you. Well, maybe.
What was announced yesterday about studying possible legal action? What's the status of that?
If there's any problem. No, since yesterday it's already in the hands of the legal department, and when we have more developments on what is being studied, we'll let you know, right?
But the red lines can never be crossed. Well, red lines, nobody touches the club, and so on. It's incredible. It's incredible that the representative says this. Right now, the kind of guy who quadrupled the payments to Negreira, they were paying the vice president of the referees. And if this hadn't become time-barred under Spain's sports law, Barca would have been relegated. Administratively, Barca wouldn't have been invited to the next Champions League, or the one after that, or the one after that, and the whole situation would have changed. And they have the nerve to say, no, you can't touch the club. That's a lie. Seriously, it's unbelievable, man. It's like the world is upside down, right? It makes me sad. I said it live yesterday and in the video after. With all the reasons we have in the Negreira case, Florentino has the same. Regarding what he said yesterday, it became part of a surreal, ridiculous press conference. And that this loses momentum. But let's all try to make sure this doesn't lose momentum, of course. Because, come on, because we are right. Because what does a club do? It's the only one in the history of world football to pay millions to pay, well, it was millions, but not a single euro, to a president or to a referee official. And this is where FIFA and UEFA will have to step in. And that's why work is being done. And justice, of course, through criminal proceedings. But as for Florentino, Florentino also wins. Today, there's important news, which, by the way, we're happy about, and I personally am very glad. Real Madrid has issued a statement this morning in which they say that justice has ruled in favor of the club regarding the case of the concerts at the Bernabeu. Let's get to the main point. It says, the aforementioned resolution concludes clearly and categorically that neither José Ángel Sánchez Periáñez, the club's general manager and member of the board of directors, nor Real Madrid de Estadio SL, which was the subsidiary created by Madrid to manage everything related to the stadium and the concerts, are responsible for any criminal offense in relation to the concerts held at the Santiago Bernabeu Stadium. It is agreed, as requested by both parties and with the consent of the public prosecutor, to dismiss the proceedings against them, thus putting a definitive end to the criminal proceedings. That is to say, Madrid is not responsible for that noise. In any case, it's the concert promoters and so on. But Madrid gets out of it through this subsidiary, this company, the Real Madrid Stadium Company, whose CEO was José Ángel Sánchez Periáñez, the famous one, you know? Well, Madrid gets out of that, and it's not going to have any kind of punishment, and it proves them right. hey, well, we're happy for that fool from Rio Bernabeu and for all the people who said that Madrid was going to pay here and was going to be condemned and all that. Well, fantastic, and very good. If there's something you have to acknowledge about Florentino, you have to give him credit for that. Now, we also have to say what we've said on other occasions. They didn't think they were going to have this mess. With the noise from the concerts in the stadium that got complicated, they didn't plan ahead there, and then this comes along, and they win it, perfect, but they still weren't foresighted. And we've gone 2 years without concerts. And hopefully they'll come back. The club is working to bring them back, and I think they will come back, hopefully. But it was an unforeseen event that wasn't accounted for at the time. Anyway, well, as a final message, I'll tell you what I always say. I have no interest in anyone. My only interest is in Real Madrid. I judge what I see. For me, there are people who have left the channel, and that's fine. But I can understand you. Those who say, well, I don't like what you're saying anymore. I don't agree with you. Okay, if you want to leave, that's fine. But for people to say that I'm being paid by someone, that I have some ulterior motive, that I owe something to journalists so that I'm on their side, I'm not on the journalist's side. I'm on my own side, on what I see, on what I judge. I have my own opinion, and that's it. I mean, nobody pays me except for YouTube, through your views and your interactions. And that's it. And as I said, because of the mental gymnastics that people are doing about whether I'm on one side or the other, I'm not on anyone's side. I judge what I see. And yesterday I saw in Florentino Perez, with much sadness, someone who, from a communication standpoint, just isn't up to it. I don't want him to be the representative of my club, of Real Madrid. And we're going to see it tonight. And we're going to see it tonight with Pedrerol. Anyway, all right, see you later. Please give it a like, because there will be a lot of people who will dislike this, so it will balance things out a bit. And those of you who follow the channel and are still here, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, comment, share, and that's it. See you in the next one. Bye.